First and foremost, I don't want to talk to him again. Tell him from me that he can live or die. Vince, could you please be quiet? Al Pacino's heart stopped beating in 2020. He was saved by paramedics, but something had changed for good. No one expected the man who made The Godfather to be broke at 84, having lost $50 million making movies. He hates, and having a daughter at 83 with a girlfriend who is young enough to be his granddaughter. Here's why Hollywood's best actor is now its loneliest. The drama over the DNA test and his dark ideas about death. He was born in East Harlem, New York City on April 25, 1940. Rosa Gerardi and Salvatore Pacino. His parents came to America from Sicily to start a new life. They were married for a short time. His father moved to California to work as an insurance salesman when Pacino was only 2 years old. That meant that Pacino's mother had to raise him by herself in the South Bronx, with the help of his grandparents, Kate and James Gerardi. They were coming from Corleone, Sicily, a town that became famous after the Godfather movie. In the 1940s and 1950s, it was hard to live in the Bronx. His family had a hard time with money, and the lack of his father left a hole that never really healed. His mother did give him something, though, that would change his life. She loved movies and took him to the theater a lot. He got lost in the stories on the screen. Even before he knew what it was, he was interested in acting. Going to the movies as a child sowed the seeds of a love that would last a lifetime. Polino became known as Sonny by his friends as he aged. He was always breaking the rules and had a wild side. Before he turned 9, he was already drinking and smoking. By the age of 13, he was trying out marijuana. He wasn't interested in school and was always getting into trouble. It became normal to fight, skip class, and break the rules. Before he got into the High School of Performing Arts, he was kicked out of several others. He didn't stay for long, but it looked like the right place for him. He quit school without a high school diploma or a regular job when he was 17. He did this after a fight with his mother about his future. During his teens, he was always going somewhere. He ran with some friends who didn't know what they were doing either. Some got into trouble and some started using drugs. Cliffy, Bruce, and Pie. 3 of his best friends would later die from drug accidents. Something kept Pacino going, even though he could have the same way. Acting gave him a way to escape and focus his tense energy on something bigger than himself. He said afterward that playing was the only reason he made it out alive. After that, he lost things that changed him for good. He was only 22 years old when his mother died in 1962. She was 43 years old. She had been depressed for a long time, and her death hurt him more than anything else. A year after that, his grandfather James died. He had been like a father to him. The 2 most important people in his life died in the space of a year. He said later that was the worst time of his life. He had lost everything and felt like he had nothing left to hold on to. After many years, he wrote about his pain in his autobiography, which was called Sonny Boy, after the name his mother gave him. If I'm lucky, I might see my mother then. All I want is the chance to walk up to her and say, "Hey, Ma, look what happened to me." Pacino became an actor after losing his mother and grandpa. It wasn't simple. To pay for acting lessons, he worked as a bartender, a messenger, a mail worker, and a cleaner. He went to school at HB Studio in Greenwich Village and met Charlie Lee Tan, an acting teacher who would become one of his most important teachers. It was always hard to get money, though. He had nowhere to go some night. He slept on friends' couches and even in movie halls when he had nowhere else to. In the early 1960s, he was so poor that he had to sleep on the streets and cast himself in any small part he could find in underground theater shows. Israel Horovitz wrote the off-Broadway Play the Indian Wants the Bronx, which Al Pacino acted in 1968. The first show was on January 17 at the Astor Place Theater in New York City, and it ran for 177 shows. The way he played Murph had a rough energy that was both scary and weirdly human. He wasn't just acting like an angry troublemaker. He showed what was really going on behind the anger. Critics and the business world both paid attention. The Obie Award for Best Actor went to him. John Cazale, who played his co-star, won an award for Best Supporting Actor, and Horowitz got an award for Best New Play. Behind the scenes, something even more important took place. Along with The Indian, Once the Bronx, another Horowitz play called The Sugar Plum was put on. Jill Clyburn, who was dating Al Pacino at the time, played the lead role in both plays. Martin Bregman, a man who would change Pacino's life, he met through this show. Bregman saw something great in him, so he hired him as a boss. In the end, he helped Pacino get some of his most famous parts in movies like The Godfather, Serpico, and Dog Day Alley. In later years, Pacino said that his career might not have gone the way it did without Bregman. After only 1 year, Pacino made his Broadway bow in the play Does a Tiger Wear a Necktie? The Belasco Theater first put on the play in 1969. It was written by Don Peterson. As the story went on, showed how young drug users can get better by going to a rehab center. Bacon was played by Pacino. He was a troubled young user who had a tough appearance that hid deep emotional wounds. After 9 previews, the show only ran for 39 performances, but it made an effect that will last. Newsweek's Jack Kroll called him Hood. Variety called him the best up-and-coming star on Broadway. He got the Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in a Play when he was only 29 years old. For years, Pacino trained to be able to give his parts so much depth. The Actors Studio in New York City, which is one of the best acting schools in the world, taught him under Lee Strasberg. Strasberg was the founder of method acting, which teaches artists how to use their own feelings to make their roles more real. Pacino later said that working out with Strasberg gave him the courage to become an actor full-time. The path Al Pacino took to play Michael Corleone in The Godfather wasn't just hard, it was a fight. His performance is famous now, but in 1972, the idea of hiring him almost ruined the whole show. Paramount Pictures was looking for a star that could make a lot of money, like Ryan O'Neal, Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty, or Robert Redford. At that time, not many people knew who Pacino was. The company didn't want to hire him because he had only been in one movie and a strong background in theater. They didn't think of him as a main man. They were looking for someone bigger, more like a star in Hollywood. He thought Pacino would be great as Michael Corleone after seeing him on Broadway. He saw something in Pacino that no one else did. The ability to show how Michael changed from a good war hero to a cruel mafia boss. Coppola wouldn't give in, which got her into a lot of fights with the company. At one point, Paramount tried James Caan out for the part of Michael and told Coppola that Pacino could stay if Caan played Sonny Corleone. The company still wasn't sure even after shooting began. They looked at early clips of Pacino's performance and didn't want him there anymore. He knew he had to quickly show Pacino how good he was. He chose to film the murder scene in the restaurant earlier than planned. It was an important moment because Michael took his first real step into the crime world. Everything changed when the people in charge at Paramount saw it. They finally got what Coppola had been seeing the whole time. Pacino was great. He made people remember him. After that, he was sure to have a part in the movie. That part changed his whole life. He was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, even though many people thought he should have been nominated for Best Actor. For political reasons, he didn't go to the event because he felt left out, but his career took off even before he won. It made over $250 million at the box office, but only cost $6 million to make. It won Best Picture at the Oscars and made Pacino a star. People liked how he played Michael because of how intensely he looked and how much he could say with just a glance. That chilling look in the dinner scene became one of the most famous scenes in movie history. It wasn't easy to get there, though. Pacino later said shooting. There was too much pressure. Having the fear of being fired always there made it hard for him to concentrate. He even hurt his ankle badly while shooting a scene where he is running away. He had to get shots just to keep going because the pain was so bad. Strange that his first response to sure, hey, he was in pain because he wouldn't let his hurt slow him down. Many people worked hard to make The Godfather. which became one of the most famous movies ever. He did a great job of showing how complicated Michael Corleone was, a man who was pulled between loving his family and the demands of a violent, dangerous world. That role would make him famous as one of the best actors in Hollywood and define his career. Even though he was successful, Pacino's personal life was still hard. As he became more famous, he felt a lot of pressure, and he often felt alone in the business. He was honest and talks about how hard it was to be famous, how much it hurt him emotionally, and how much attention he was under all the time. As the years went by, Pacino kept making movies that people would remember, but he became pickier about the parts he took on, looking for ones that would push him personally and professionally. Between the 1980s and 1990s, Pacino was known as one of the best actors of his time. In 1992, he got the Academy Award for Best Actor for his part in Scent of a Woman. This cemented his place in Hollywood history. Even with all the praise, he was still looking for direction in his personal life. He often had trouble getting along with his family and friends, and he had a hard time finding happiness outside of work. As the years went on, Pacino's work kept going strong, but his personal life got more difficult. He was in a number of well-known relationships, including one with Diane Keaton, who was also in him in The Godfather. Even with all of these relationships, Pacino never got married, and his love life stayed unstable. On April 19, 2019, he had his first child with his much younger lover. He was 79 years old. This unexpected turn of events made his already complicated life story even more interesting. Age 84, Pacino is living a life that not many people could have imagined. He has been through a lot in his personal and work life, but his reputation as one of the best artists of all time will always be strong. Still, his life now shows how fame can make people feel alone and isolated. As Pacino thinks back on his life, he still struggles with his views about death and the meaning of life. He finds comfort in his work, but he is still troubled by the personal cost of his success. In Al Pacino's story, there is happiness, sadness, and the search for meaning. His career has been full of unforgettable roles that have changed the way American movies are made, but behind the scenes, he has been through personal problems, loss, and a never-ending search for happiness. His reputation, on the other hand, lives on, and he will always be remembered as one of the best players who ever worked in Hollywood. Some of the best artists in history learned how to act in school. There, Pacino learned from greats like Lee I. Strasberg and Charlie Hilton. In the past, he said that the studio changed his life. Now, he helps it change the lives of other people. The Actors Studio is a safe space for Pacino to take risks. It's not about fame or money. It's about putting yourself out there and learning without fear. This school is where many of Hollywood's best actors and actresses learn their craft, like James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, Paul Newman, Jack Nicholson. Pacino still helps up-and-coming artists through talks and classes. He doesn't just teach them how to do things. He also pushes them to read, think, and look into literature and theory. He thinks that playing is more than just putting on a show. It's about knowing life. In his whole life, Al Pacino has been in the public eye, but he has never gotten married. He was in relationships with Diane Keaton, Beverly D'Angelo, and Kathleen Quinlan, but he never got married. He wrote about why he never thought marriage would be good for him in his 2024 book, Sonny Boy. He even called it Entrance to the Pain Train. His fears shaped how he thought about engagement, and no girl or guy could change that. One of the best-known love stories in Hollywood is his with Diane Keaton. In 1972, they met on the set of The Godfather. She thought he was both charming and strange. They were together on and off for years, but Keaton had enough by 1990. She told him he had to commit or it was over while they were making The Godfather Part 3. She turned Pacino down and left. Kathleen Quinlan was the first person in a close relationship. In 1979, they met at a party that acting coach Lee Strasberg threw. For years, they couldn't be apart. They even traveled across Europe together. In retrospect, Pacino said that Quinlan was the closest person he had ever come to getting married, but he didn't go through with it. He was sad for years after making that choice. He never got married, but becoming a dad was a big part of his life. He had his fourth kid, a boy named Roman, with Noah Alala, who was 29 years old, in June 2023. He was 83 years old. A lot of people were shocked by the news, especially after it came out that Pacino had asked for a DNA test. He just didn't think it was possible for him to have kids anymore. Once the test results showed Roman was his, he became a father again. Even though Pacino and Alala started dating during the pandemic in 2020, it wasn't made public until April 2022. People were interested in them even though they were 54 years apart in age, since Alala usually dated older guys. In the past, she was tied to both Mick Jagger and Clint Eastwood. Pacino already had 3 children, twins Anton James and Olivia Rose, born in 2001 with Beverly D'Angelo. His oldest daughter, Julie Marie, born in 1989, with acting coach Jan Tarrant and Roman. His life changed when he became a dad again at age 83. When he was young, his father left him, and he never wanted that to happen again. He stayed active even after he broke up with Alala. He talks to Roman on video calls, and the two of them play the harp together. Pacino still works at age 84. His future projects show that he has no plans to slow down. In 2021, he featured in House of Gucci. The movie Modi, which stars Johnny Depp and is about the Italian artist Ammazio Modigliani, is one of the most anticipated. The movie shows 3 very intense days in Modigliani's life, during which he battles with his work and his own inner demons. Pacino is also in the scary movie The Ritual, which is based on the real-life story of Emma Schmidt's exorcism. The movie, which comes out on April 18, 2025, is about 2 priests who do dangerous exorcism while also dealing with their own problems. Besides that, he's working on Billy Knight and Killing Castro, which shows that he's still really excited about telling stories. Pacino doesn't just do acting for a living. It's what kept him going when things were hard in his life. He says it saved his life a lot of times. He has had some hard times in his life. A near-death event in 2020 changed his life forever. He lost his pulse while he was sick and had to be awakened by rescuers. After that, he was sure there was no future, and he told everyone about it. At this point in his life, Pacino is still busy, still a dad, and still thinking about everything he's been through. He didn't do what most people do, but that didn't stop him from having a full life. He is still one of the most interesting people in Hollywood, on and off film.